Hey guys, it's Amber and I'm getting ready to start working on making a fireplace. So I don't know exactly what day it's going to be yet, but I just have a vision in my mind of what I wanted to make. I've been wanting to make one since I saw these stockings. They're one of like my favorite products from the main kit this year. So what I'm doing, I'm not making one that looks like the one in my house. I'm making my dream fireplace. But what I have here is, I was using this as like my background paper, but an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper is nearly the same size. It's like an 1/8 of an inch longer, if that. And I just cut a 1/4 inch off so that I was basically working on the paper that would be in my album here. So I made a sketch basically so that I could start taking measurements on what I wanted everything to look like. I left myself 3/8, I think. Sorry. 5/8 room for my holes to be punched here on this side of the paper, probably. And then I think I'm going to use this green paper as my background with the stars. I'm not even 100% sure yet on that, but it's kind of what was really looking good with these. So I have some Basil cardstock. This is Avalanche, so it's a slightly more vanilla or creamy white. It's not white, which you might be able to see a slightly difference here. This is more of a gray tone. And then I'm going to use this paper from Felicity Jane's new collection as my wood mantle piece for nice light color. So I really thought that this green looked good with those. So my plan is to, like I said, I sketched it out. I want to take up almost the whole page. So I sketched it out so that I'm going to make this look like different pieces by cutting the parts to 7 by 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to have a 1 by 8 3/4 inch beam, and then I'm also going to have more pieces here that stick out. They'll be 3/8, but more like I think 7 3/4. So in the space where the fireplace is going to go, I've blocked that out to be 3 1/8 by 3 1/8 square. And I found this in my stash. I wish I could remember exactly which line this was from, but it was a camping set, and I'm going to cut out this fireplace piece here. This fireplace, fire and log piece to be part of my fire here. I know it's pretty big. It's the only one I could find, but I'm going to, I think, cut off like the bottom logs right here so there's a little bit of room around it within that window space. I tried looking for more stuff in my stash, but this is the only one I could find, or I want to make my own. I might just use this as a template because I really hate to cut into this. It's really cute. As far as decorations, I'm still making some decisions. So I have, of course, my stockings, so you'll see about where they're going to sit. I'm not sure exactly how high up they're going to be, but they're going to overlap here just a tiny bit. I have this wreath that was in the Advent kit 2 years ago, I think. So that might go off the page, or have like a ribbon here to help pull up the piece that's going to be behind it. I have this enlarged rubber wreath that I don't think is going to work out, but I grabbed it just to try it. I have this from, I can't even remember. This is all my die-cut stuff, but I don't have the name of that one. I think it's crepe paper. Yeah, it's crepe paper wreath. I liked it for the size, and that it, the pink isn't necessarily going to match, but I liked the size and how detailed and full it was. I've got this tree and this tiny little wreath from this year's Felicity Jane kit, and this swag banner. So I was considering doing something like that, but the colors don't 100% match. But I might use this wreath. We'll just see. I have to figure all this out once I start really laying it down. I also grabbed greenery. This is from 2 years worth of kits from, let me grab that pack again, from Felicity Jane, and those were the Noel set. So I happened to have 2 sets of die cuts, and they had 3 pieces each in them. So I had 6 to make my boughs. And I was trying to look for other stuff. I'm deciding if I want to stamp on vellum or make my own pieces, but I think that these are going to end up working pretty well kind of for what I'm trying to do. I've got 2 bigger pieces and 2 smaller pieces. And these will be laid out completely different from this. I'm just giving you an idea. Maybe tucking in one of these behind here. I think I have those backwards, but just, you know, I don't want it to be all green, but I was having a hard time finding other stuff that I liked in my stash. And then last but not least, I have one of my strings of lights here. I used lights in last year's album, so I'm deciding how I want to use them. It's a set that I got from Amazon where I got like 12 for like very cheap. I'll try to remember to link that. So one thing that I was able to discover is that I can cut this. So I was able to cut off a few and it still works. So I will be able to make this smaller so I don't have to try to use the whole thing. And the other thing that I have to decide, you know, I have to figure out where this is going to get hidden, and this is going to be 3D. And then to try to get the lights closer together, I'm going to have to coil them because they're like every, I don't know, 3 inches, 4 inches almost. So I'm going to coil them, and then this piece is going to get hidden somehow behind my mantle, so that the lights can be like a little bit closer together and somehow like glowing behind my die cuts. I know it's hard to visualize. Like they're going to be layered in and out of these die cuts. They're bright. You can get warmer ones online, I believe, but this is what I have, so this is what I'm going to use. My original plan was to try to, I always wanted to have a fire in my fireplace, and then I saw Crystal Indunantes, I'm not sure exactly how you say her name, her lesson in the product play class this year for Back to Basics, and she had a piece of vellum that pulls up, so like you can have journaling and then a piece of vellum to reveal, you know, hers reveals nothing I guess, but it could have a photo. But I wanted to maybe do like a solid piece with a quote on it that moves out of the way to see the fire. The other part of my issue, I was gonna have the fire light up too, like someone else had done online, but this does not really show through my paper at all. It just, there's like one tiny little glowing light. It's not vellum. So I have to decide if I'm gonna try to make this light up or if only this part is gonna light up. But I'm thinking that this mantle is gonna hide my box. So it's pretty thick, but I'm willing to sacrifice space for this one because I think it's going to look really cool. And it would look cool without the lights, but I thought that would be an extra fun touch. So step 1, I'm going to cut these strips of paper into 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to cut my mantle, and then I'm going to be building those all on another piece of paper. I'm not putting them on my background. This is going to be a fireplace by itself that I can put on any piece of paper in case I make a decision. I even considered the plaid background, you know, like there's a lot that you could use, but something red or green is probably going to be what I end up sticking with. And I can't wait to see how it comes out. Pretty excited about it. I even considered like putting a little felt cat down here so he looks all cozy, but we're going to see where we end up. So I'm excited to see what happens. Okay, so first things first was me cutting my paper to the full width that I was going to need, which was 7 3/4 for the bottom half of the fireplace and then 7 inches for the top half of the fireplace. And then I had to start cutting it into 3/8 strips. Now the hard part was getting to the edge of my paper and then realizing that I couldn't see the dimensions anymore on either one of my trimmers, so I had to like hold up another strip and cut them by hand. So this fireplace is far from perfect. In fact, the bottom half got a little bit crooked and I had to kind of trim it a little bit smaller to get it straightened. But anyway, so I'm mounting the basil cardstock onto just some non-textured light gray cardstock that I have there, just so that it'll give it a little dimension. It'll kind of look like, not grout, but just like show some definition between the lines, basically. Using my rolling adhesive from Gina K there, and I'm only using it on the far right and far left. I'm not putting it in the middle because I know I'm going to be cutting the fireplace out, and I figure that should be good enough for the parts that I have there. So I'm going to go up pretty far until I realize, you know, I've gotten as many as I need to, and that's going to end up being about 4.5 inches tall. And now I'm just trimming the edges so that they are nice and straight. On both sides. So I'm getting ready to do the same thing with the top, and I'm just using a little scratch piece of paper there to do my adhesive so I can run it all the way off to the edge so that I'm not getting adhesive all over my desk. So I'm going to continue doing that until I'm done off camera, and you can see they're all finished off the left there and trimmed. And now I'm going to cut, I end up having to do this twice, but I'm going to cut the first one to a 1 inch by 8 3/4 inch piece. And then I realized I should have measured the box that holds the batteries for my lights so that it would cover that. It wasn't something that I had considered. So it ends up being, I think, 1 1/4 inches. I'll have to double check. I'm not 100% sure. But I have flipped over my bottom piece there, and I'm trying to find center. Because of my trimmings and stuff, it's not exactly a very even amount. So I'm just kind of working my way into center, making lines, figuring out where my square is going to be and straight. And then I'm just cutting that with my scissors. And then I'm just going to use my fine tip scissors there to kind of get in and do a little trimming so it's nice and even. And so I'm just kind of seeing what it's going to look like here, my little farmhouse fireplace. I love it. And just seeing how it's going to look on the green paper. And you'll see me play with putting the embellishments on and off quite a bit because I just want to see how things look, and I'm trying to make decisions, and I wasn't 100% sure of where I wanted to go with certain things. So I just kind of, play around with putting the greenery on because I'm far from attaching that. But I'm just kind of seeing what everything looks like now that the fireplace has actually been made and it's not just a piece of white paper anymore. So there you can see I've kind of built everything up to see what it's going to look like, and I'm ready to get started on my lights. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of washi tape and I'm going to wrap it around, and I apologize that it's a little off camera, but I'm wrapping it around the edge of the cord so the cord will lay straight. And unfortunately this washi tape that I picked is very, very light tack, so I'm not going to end up using this, but it helps me at least get the base of my cord into position, stretched all the way across, because there's like a good probably 6 inches before there's a light. So I'm going to tape that into position, and then I'm going to start using a heavier double-sided sticky tape instead because it was just peeling right off. It had like no tack whatsoever. And I know that I'm going to need to adhere it down with red line tape, so I'm going to go ahead and put that on there. And I'm going to do quite a bit of the work before I actually adhere it down, but I know pretty much, where I want to put it. So I'm going to begin by coiling, like I had shown you in the video in the beginning, the lights across from right to left. And then I'm going to double back and go left to right, around, not really around the box, but near the box, just to see how many lights I can get. If I could have put more, I would, and I could have, but it just starts to get so thick so quickly. And there's a lot of wires crossing each other, and I still have to get all the greenery in there and adhesive to mount everything. So the nice thing about these wires is they are coated slightly. According to my partner, he checked all this out for me, and we tested the edge of this set with scissors to make sure that I'd be able to trim it one piece at a time because there's 2 wires connected. And so I tested it there before I went any further with adhering anything down or stitching anything. Okay guys, so far this is where I'm at. I've got stitching in a few different places here to help hold this as securely as I possibly can. Add some tape holding that down. So I'm going to probably cut a wider strip of this because this is just barely enough to cover the battery. So that's where the lights will be. And then I'm going to tuck the greenery inside of there. The other thing that I need to do is I'm going to take some pop-up dots, probably these right here. They're not going to be nearly the same thickness as this. They'd have to be double stacked to be the right height. And I'll probably use those here, here, and here for support, and then probably one on the outside, because I have this measured at, I believe it's 8 3/4, because this is 7 3/4, so that it has support. Here it's just going to rest here, and I might put a small one there, but yeah. So I did want to size this over a little bit more so that it's easier to hit the button, and it's not hidden by the beam, but we'll see. I used red line tape on that, and this part is sewn down, so I'm worried that if I try to pull it over that it'll cause a problem. So we'll see what I end up doing with that. And then I can't wait to decorate and then get my stockings hung down. So the stockings will probably also have some puffy dots behind them because they'll be up high like this. And they'll need a little support because they're sticky. So I could use red line tape, but I prefer to rather probably, but it'll create a little bit of a shadow, which will be cool. So next, after working on the fireplace part, I'm getting ready to work on my insert. And this is the part that was inspired by Crystal from the design team in the product play class. So I found this card by Jasmine Jones from several years back. It's probably 2015 or 2016. It says "By the Fire" in her awesome handwriting. And I wish I had known I was going to use a 3x4 card. My original plan was to do vellum or print something out with Allie's handwriting, and I hadn't made any decisions yet, but I really liked the way that this card looked, and it of course was appropriate because it's a fireplace. So if I had known, I would have made the frame a little bit smaller for the opening. However, unrelated, I'm cutting that 3x4 card down. I cut a 1/2 inch off the bottom so that the sentiment would sit where I want it to. And then I cut cardstock to fit, I believe it is going to be probably about 4.5 or 5 inches wide, probably 4.5, just wide enough. And then I'm going to use red line tape to adhere the two together. And you can see here I'm just kind of testing things out. And I'm getting ready to decide if I want to use my foam roll or my foam strips. So looking back, I should have probably used the foam roll because it's wider, but the strips were just so much easier to grab one and apply it, that I went there. So I'm putting some around the edge of the fireplace where the card's going to go. And then I'm going to put some around the edge of the paper along the top as well. And then some more just to help balance and keep everything in line, and a little piece even going like horizontally there to help make sure that the paper doesn't go any further down, because this isn't going to be in a page protector, so it needs to not be able to slide out of the bottom of the album for the project. So there you can see I'm just adding extra pieces, and then I'm gonna align them along the side there and along the top, along the sides. But like I said, the wider might have been a little bit better of a choice, just so there'd be more support, because these are pretty skinny. So, and also I forgot to mention, you can see in the middle there that I added all those circle dot adhesives, and they're double stacked on top of each other to get as high as the plastic box with the light switch. So I added the stockings. The nice thing about the backing is that it's split in half. So I only peeled off the top piece and attached it to the wood paper. I didn't peel the paper off the bottom so that it doesn't like accidentally get stuck to anything. So here I'm just adding a few more pop dots and just seeing how everything is looking. And I'm adding one to the right hand side there that's actually like the height of 2.5 of them. I had to cut 1.5 horizontally to try to get it, because it needed to be thicker, because I have the fireplace popped up as well, plus the battery. So this is getting really thick, but I love how it came out. So deciding one last time if there's any other embellishments I want to do. I have 2 of those trees side by side. Unfortunately, the color just did not match. And then I considered the other wreaths and a bow. Just, you know, trying to go through all my options before I make a final commitment. My plan was to possibly just stick all this in a page protector and leave it until the actual day, but I decided just to go for it and go ahead and glue the wreath down and get everything mounted to the paper. And there I'm just checking the lights to make sure the mantle is not too high or too low. And I wanted to see what it would look like with the number 24, because I am considering making this our Christmas Eve story. I'm not sure yet though, because we're going to be leaving for a cruise that day. So here I am just adding some red line tape to the top of the battery so that the fireplace is very securely mounted to it, because of the washi tape being slippery. I didn't want any chance of it falling or missing adhesive. And then I just used some double-sided sticky tape to attach to that die cut tree from Felicity Jane. And you can see I'm just kind of still testing everything out, and then making sure that the card slips and slides in and out where I want it to go. Just taking no chances, because this is a lot of work to put all this together, and I didn't want to mess anything up. So I've gotten that adhered down, and now I'm going to attach the wreath. The wreath, however, had like no stick to it, so I'm using some red line tape to attach that down, and I'm going to let it go across the top. And I was considering cutting it, but I just let it go. And then I'm going to cut a little piece of ribbon to make that piece into a tag. So I'll either put a photo on there or some journaling with some matte sticker paper that I've been really enjoying using lately. And I used my slot punch and stuck the paper down in there. So now everything is built and I'm ready to mount it to the main paper, which I went through all my papers and made the decision that this green star was the one I was going to go with. So I'm using some double-sided sticky tape, finding center and laying the fire part down first. That way I know it's centered. And then I'm going to put the fireplace down. I'm removing all the pieces of paper to reveal the sticky side. And I'm going to mount that down because everything else has been put together at this point. So I'm really happy with how it came out. I hope you are excited to try making your own fireplace. And it's not that hard. You just really have to think about your steps in advance, and you don't have to go crazy and add lights like I do. But here's a little quick look of what it looks like completely done and with the lights on. And I just love it. It's going to look so awesome in my album. So happy scrapping, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much. Bye.